Today, I'm going to present an extended and detailed summary of Barack Obama's memoir, A Promised Land. This book is not just a political autobiography. It's a deep reflection on family, identity, responsibility, leadership, and the emotional weight of carrying a nation's expectations. In this summary, we will walk through Obama's early life, his path to politics, his campaign, and the first major years of his presidency, while also exploring the internal struggles and lessons he shares with remarkable honesty. The story begins with Obama's search for identity. Growing up in Hawaii with a white American mother and a Kenyan father he barely knew, Obama constantly felt the need to understand where he belonged. His childhood was shaped by curiosity and a desire to contribute something meaningful to the world. These early experiences taught him empathy, perspective, and discipline, qualities that later shaped his political career. His time in Chicago becomes a turning point. Working as a community organizer, Obama witnesses the hardships of ordinary families, the struggles of low-income neighborhoods, and the consequences of inequality. These years ground him. They teach him that real change starts from the bottom, through dedication and listening rather than grand speeches. That period also helps him envision how politics can be used not for personal power, but as a tool for service. Obama also opens the door to his personal life. His relationship with Michelle, the balance between family and ambition, and the emotional tension that public life creates. He admits how difficult it was for Michelle to accept the idea of a political career, knowing it would expose their entire family to scrutiny. Yet they push forward together, driven by shared values and the belief that they can contribute to something greater. As he transitions into politics, Obama describes the challenges of being a young, relatively unknown politician. His speeches draw attention, but attention brings pressure. After his famous 2004 Democratic National Convention speech, he suddenly becomes a national figure, something he hadn't fully prepared for. He explains how this moment pushed him toward the Senate, and eventually toward a presidential campaign that many initially thought was impossible. The campaign journey forms one of the most vivid parts of the book. Obama describes how his team grew from a small, ambitious group into a nationwide movement built on hope, energy, and grassroots support. He reflects on the emotional highs of speaking to massive crowds and the exhausting lows of being away from his family for long stretches. He also shares the strategic moments, how they handled criticism, how they responded to political attacks, and how they maintained their message of unity in a divided environment. Reaching the White House brings a completely different level of responsibility. Obama details the overwhelming reality of the presidency from day one. The financial crisis is collapsing banks, unemployment is climbing, and millions of Americans are facing uncertainty. Every decision carries enormous weight. Obama describes the long meetings, the disagreements among advisors, and the pressure of knowing that any mistake could affect the entire country. The financial rescue plan, the stimulus package, and the painstaking process of building trust in the economy are all explained with clarity. However, political opposition makes everything more complicated. Obama discusses how polarization increased during his presidency, making bipartisan cooperation more difficult than he had hoped. Healthcare reform becomes one of the central battles of his early presidency. Obama walks us through how the Affordable Care Act was shaped, debated, attacked, defended, and finally passed. He reveals the behind-the-scenes negotiations, the emotional weight of the issue, and the determination it required. To him, providing health care to millions of uninsured Americans was not just a political victory, it was a moral responsibility. Foreign policy also plays a critical role in the story. Obama shares his thoughts about the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, the complexity of making military decisions, and the emotional difficulty of meeting families who lost loved ones in service. He emphasizes that the presidency is not only about strategy, but also about carrying the grief and hopes of an entire nation. Throughout all of this, Obama remains reflective and self-critical. He acknowledges his mistakes, moments of doubt, and times when the burden felt overwhelming. He often questions whether he made the right choice, whether he pushed too hard or not hard enough, and whether the cost to his family was too great. These honest reflections add depth to the narrative and show the human side of leadership. By the end of the book, Obama explains that change is always slow, often frustrating, and rarely perfect. But he argues that progress comes from persistence, continuing to push forward even when obstacles seem unmovable. A Promised Land ultimately becomes a story about believing in the possibility of improvement, embracing responsibility, and understanding that leadership requires courage, patience, and humility. The book closes with a message of hope. Despite challenges, divisions, and setbacks, Obama believes that ordinary people can shape history. And through his journey, he encourages readers not to give up on the idea of building a better future, one determined step at a time.